everyone. My name is Aleksandra, and today I'm going to be showing you how to approach the literature review part of your business research methods assignment, group assignment. So first thing that we need to do is, of course, we need to know our hypotheses, or what we're going to test in this research paper. So I wrote down the hypotheses all right here for you guys. So we have hypotheses 1A through E, and then also hypothesis 2. So the first thing that is important to do when you're starting to try to look for the relevant literature is to have these main topics and have recognized these main topics. So given these hypotheses, we can see that the main topics are the Big Five personality traits model, emotional intelligence, and job performance, because those are our big variables, essentially, because all of these hypotheses in 1A through E all deal with characteristics from the Big Five personality model, and they all are in terms of job performance. And then same here, we have emotional intelligence training related to job performance. So we can even go a step further in our subtopics that we can make as well. So for the Big Five personality traits model, well, we can make subtopics of each personality trait. So we can have neuroticism, extroversion, etc. So those can be subtopics for our Big Five personality traits model. And it's important that we have these subtopics because it's really going to help you whenever you're typing in what to search in Google Scholar, for example. So for emotional intelligence, we could even go a step further and say emotional intelligence training. So EI training. And then for job performance, I think we can leave that as it is, but we could even say actually employee job performance, because who are we talking about? Are we talking about employers, employees? We can make that even more specific. So employers and employees, we could even have that separate. So once you have some of these subtopics with each other, once you have these subtopics down, you could have a bunch of other subtopics, but it's really, really useful for you guys to make these because it's going to make your search so much easier. And so once you have these subtopics, we also want to make sure that when we look these variables up into Google Scholar, we want to make sure that we look one or more of them up together, because our hypotheses are testing how they relate to each other. So in terms of maybe hypothesis 1B, conscientiousness and job performance, well, if we wanted to search it up into Google Scholar, we could look up conscientiousness plus job performance. And that's essentially how you would look it up in Google Scholar. And another example that we have is maybe emotional intelligence plus job performance. So why don't we just look that up right now? So let's go to Google Scholar or any other place that you can find academic articles, because in your research paper, you need to make sure that you are using academic articles from published journals, because if you use normal websites, that is not going to be sufficient for a research paper. You need to be using journal papers. So if we wanted to look that up, emotional intelligence plus job performance. So when we do this, I already started some of them. But yeah, when we do this, we see like all of these articles, like you see here, there's like 1 million, almost 1.3 million results. So how do we pick the ones that are going to be the most useful for us? And there's a few ways that you can do that. So firstly, look at how many people have cited that article. So this one was cited by 1,000, like 1,200 people. So we know that if it's very popular, then a lot of people found it to be useful. So maybe we will as well. So we should star it. Same with this one. This one was 1,121, and we can look at the title and say relationship between emotional intelligence and job performance. Well, that's perfect for our research paper. So again, we star it. And we can basically just kind of like go down this list and star the ones that we believe seem interesting. And honestly, I would recommend starring anything that catches your attention in the title. And we can filter through them later. So at first, when you're doing your first basic search with like given 2 variables or given 2 subtopics from your research paper, I would just recommend to star everything so you have it saved in your library, and then you can go from there. So we starred these 2, emotional intelligence, teamwork, effectiveness, and job performance. Labor's emotional intelligence on their job satisfaction, job performance, and job commitment. Like, we can star whichever ones that seem interesting to you, because of course you're going to be the ones choosing which articles to mention in your literature review. So we just have a few of them picked. So if we star all of these, let's say, for example, let's star these, and then we can basically, this is the basic Google Scholar, but if you go to your library, you can basically see all of the ones that you've just starred. And I'm going to do a little bit quick search because my Google Scholar has a lot of literature in it. So we can just look up the word emotional intelligence. And here we found the articles that we just saved. And then from here, what I would recommend is clicking on whichever one is going to be interesting to you. So for this one, let's just click on emotional intelligence, cognitive intelligence, and job performance. And the next step in filtering through your literature is essentially take a look at each of the abstracts, see what the paper is about, see whether it's really relevant to what you're researching, because in our hypotheses, we're talking about how emotional intelligence training is positively related to job performance. So basically, we're going to be looking for any articles that have to deal with emotional intelligence training, and how it relates to job performance. So any articles that could potentially deal with that and have interesting findings, we can include in our research paper. So this abstract shows how emotional intelligence are associated with job performance and cognitive intelligence. So this definitely seems like a really good candidate for us to use in our research paper. So the next thing is what I really, really recommend, again, that you guys do is make a document and sort through your literature. So remember how we had these main topics, and this was the 2 variables that we were searching with. So I'm just going to bold it. So, for example, we can have something like this, where we have job performance and emotional intelligence. And this can be a subtopic underneath basically EI plus jobs. So this can be like our main topic. And then this is one of the subtopics, because we could have another subtopic that maybe was like, let's say, job performance plus EI training, because right now we only have emotional intelligence, but what about training? So like this could also be another thing that you could search up in Google Scholar. So for example, we just found this article, and it seems pretty promising based off of what we've looked at in the abstract. So now that we see that this article seems interesting, we want to potentially use it, then I would recommend that you immediately basically put it into some sort of literature sorter, so you can keep track of basically all of these subtopics and all the literature that you are somewhat interested in. So this title of this article is emotional intelligence, this whole thing. So let's just copy and paste it. We can worry about the font and everything later. I just want to show you guys how to do it. So authors, again, you have all the authors here that you can put into some sort of Google Doc. So like this and someone else, minors. And then also it's important to note the year that it was published. So this was 2006. So now that we have that type of information from this article, underneath notes, you can title anything you want. This is just a really rough outline that you guys can feel free to use if you would like. So under notes, you can basically go into results that they found. You can go into maybe some of the literature they used to support their findings, discussion, and the discussion is going to be important for you to find a research gap, because in their discussion, usually they say, oh, there should be more studies about this specific topic. So another good place to look is definitely the results, and the discussion or the conclusion is what they also call it. So now that we put that into some sort of Google Doc that will keep track of all of our literature, those types of subtopics can be really, really useful in terms of how to structure your paragraphs when you're writing your research paper. Because in your introduction, you're going to start out with, the main background. Like maybe you can start out with just the big main topics and just look up, say for example, if you went to Google Scholar and you just looked up the most main topic ever, so like Big 5 personality traits. Oh, not Big 5 inventory. Yeah, Big 5 personality traits, and just define it or something like that. So you could start with that. And then once you have the main definitions down of your main topics, then in the next paragraph, you can go into your subtopic. And so the main subtopic here is how does neuroticism and job performance relate? How does extroversion and job performance relate? And you can use maybe 1 or 2 articles that you find using this Google Scholar technique and kind of just explain what they found. And then using that, you can do that for all of your main topics. And you can use these main things as basically your paragraph starters. And then the subtopics and the additional searches such as this one as the bulk of your paragraphs. And then at the end, of course, once you've read through all of these different discussions from all these different articles, you can kind of already usually see some sort of trend as to what they're recommending for future studies, what they're going to find later on, what they really want new researchers to look into. So you can also use those discussions to your advantage to come up with some sort of research gap. And then after that, of course, you need to state your hypotheses, because that's all we're trying to do, is find relevant literature that was already published, already researched, and we're trying to use that literature to say, well, if this past literature said that conscientiousness was positively related to job performance, then we're going to hypothesize the same thing in our hypotheses. So that's the whole reason why. We need the background to kind of support why we're even hypothesizing these things that they gave you guys at the beginning of the business project. So I really hope that was helpful. If you would like me to share this template with you guys, I would be really, really happy to. And if you have any more questions about how to write the literature review, how to write your introduction, the methods, any sort of advice like that, please feel free to contact me. My WhatsApp, I'm always in the group. So yeah, I just really hope this was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, have a great day.